But I do appreciate you coming last second, kind of. We just set this up, like last week? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yes. Yeah. Towards the end of last week. Yeah. We're happy to do it though. We're flexible.
Yeah.
No, excited for you to be here.
Fun.
And, obviously it's Children's Cancer. Remind me the month.
Yes.
What it's technically called, because I keep messing this up.
Yes. So September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And actually, Andy Brashear, our governor, he actually just mid-September, he actually just signed a proclamation declaring September being Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the state of Kentucky as well. So our state here in Kentucky has been kind of leading the way in childhood cancer research and advocacy, which I think is really special and something we should be really proud of.
Yeah, obviously it's great to get the governor to do a proclamation like that at that level, but it also stinks because it means it's raised itself to enough of a level to warrant something like that. So I'm curious, what is it about childhood cancer in particular that has people interested in being, involved and helping? And, what do those numbers even look like? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah. So, approximately 1 out of 300 to 350 children in the U.S. will be diagnosed with cancer before their 18th birthday.
Wow.
So I think when people think of childhood cancer, unless you have personally known somebody or your child has been impacted by it, you may think that it's rare, but it honestly isn't. In Kentucky, actually, there are a couple of cancers that are more prevalent in Kentucky than they are anywhere else. Brain tumors, especially, are more prominent in Kentucky, and there are higher incidences of cancers, especially in the eastern part of the state, which is really interesting. So I think that's even more reason why Kentuckians need to care about childhood cancer.
Has there been an association to something in Eastern Kentucky?
I don't know that they have the research or the data to necessarily prove anything.
That would be so good to know, though, right?
Right.
Because I've seen a stat that over 150 kids in Kentucky are diagnosed every year. So if that's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And then thousands are undergoing treatment every day, just up the street at UK.
I mean, immediately I think of sometimes a lack of access because of, proximity to healthcare, maybe income because of abandonment of communities from, older traditional energy, like coal leaving.
Yeah.
Black lung, things of that nature in the parents. So
well,
and
then
fascinating.
Unfortunately, there's a really big need for more childhood cancer research to be done. Unfortunately, out of all of the research dollars dedicated to cancer in the U.S., only 4% is dedicated to studying childhood cancers.
What does that number equate to, by the way?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I don't. But that is one of the things that in Kentucky, the Pediatric Cancer Trust Fund that's been started in recent years is leading the way in ensuring that funds are set aside specifically to study childhood cancers. We've got 2 really amazing childhood cancer treatment facilities here in the state that are doing a lot more groundbreaking research to try to lead the way and figure out how we can serve these kids better.
Yeah.
I think in general, people care about children. I mean, they're the future. And when they're facing a terminal illness like cancer, obviously people should care about that and want to help. And that's why Kids Cancer Alliance was started 42 years ago. There was a group of people who they were in the hospitals, they were working with these children, and they realized, wow, okay, we are serving the healthcare needs of these kids the best we can, but they need it more. They need it the psychosocial support. They needed emotional support. They needed to be around other kids who understood what they were going through. So that's when they dreamed up Camp KCA, our summer camp program, 42 years ago. And it started and it's just grown ever since. We now at Kids Cancer Alliance offer multiple weeks of summer camp, not only for kids with cancer, but also their siblings. We have a teen weekender in the fall where the kids can just come and spend that time with those adolescents who know what they're going through and have been through cancer treatments. Our family retreat program where the entire family can come and have a weekend away. A lot of times when their child's going through treatment, they don't get the chance to go on a vacation. So we give the vacation to them. And then we have year-round programs actually in the hospitals. So at both of the treatment centers here in the state of Kentucky, as well as year-round financial assistance programs. So we're really trying to serve the quality of life needs of kids with cancer and their families.
I can't help but keep thinking like it's great that it's growing and there's participation, there's donations and all those things, but it sucks that it keeps growing because it means there's still a need.
Absolutely.
And apparently a growing need, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and the one thing about KCA that does such a good job of just not only ministering to the children, but their family as a whole, like including those siblings who, I mean, when a child is going through this, it's the whole family that is walking this journey with these children. And so to be able to meet the needs of the siblings and meet the needs of the family with just different support things that they need. You know, when they're going through this, sometimes they're traveling long distances. And so we can help provide gas cards or groceries and just different things, you know, that they need, food cards.
So what is it? I'm just curious because fortunately I haven't been close to cancer, so I haven't had to see it for myself. But what does that look like to families that have, you know, a kid with cancer?
Yeah, so their treatment, it varies pretty greatly depending on what the diagnosis is. But it could be anything from on, I will say, the easier to treat cancers, if you will. It may just look like a few months of daily radiation and chemotherapy, or to a surgery. But any of those, obviously, when you're talking about children, is serious. All the way up to the most common type of childhood cancer is leukemia. And that is a 3-year treatment protocol. So that's 3 years that they are under treatment, fighting cancer. And then we have several families that, unfortunately, and children that have faced multiple relapses. But there are truly some incredible stories. We have, you know, volunteers that now volunteer at our summer camp, and they've, you know, survived 3 different relapses of their disease and are testaments to, you know, the resiliency of these children and families. It's pretty incredible.
I'm fortunate to have 2 very healthy kids, 6 and almost 2 years old. And I just couldn't imagine having to use a resource like that. I mean, it's tough enough whenever they're just healthy, running around and keeping them safe, you know,
it is.
Let alone to sit there and see them in a hospital bed, or some of the discussions and the words that are coming out of your mouth that you don't want to hear yourself say, you know, when you're talking about your own kids.
It is. And, you know, I think
I keep saying that sucks, which I know is like a,
it does.
You know,
it does.
it's conversation, but like, it just
there's no easy way to put it, right? But I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that I got involved, in my husband too. Just like, we are blessed. We have 4 healthy children, but I have had family members, and I've walked with different friends who have had, you know, kids that have battled cancer, and it stinks. It sucks. It's awful. And I don't want to, you know, I don't want to see these people go through this. And what can I do to help? And so that was kind of the way that the license plate came about, was what is a way that's not out there that we can raise money. And then with the license plate, it helps raise awareness as well, you know, driving on the streets of Kentucky.
And I want to keep talking about the license plate. I know you keep bringing up the summer camp, and I definitely want to dive into that. I'm not avoiding that. I go down rabbit holes and latch onto things. But with the, can you talk about the license plate and how that started? Again, a little bit more detail on maybe how that started. Where can we actually go and do that? How does that actually benefit, you know, the partnership and all the things?
For sure. So a lot of people don't know this, but when you try to get a specialty license plate, there's a pretty big process that you have to go through. And so we had to have 900 people sign on to say, okay, if the state produces this license plate, we'll get one. They don't want to produce it if no one's going to get it. So that process in and of itself took several years. And that was kind of when Shelby and I met, and we started kind of forming that partnership to try to get people who, you know, were already involved and helping with childhood cancer because they had, a vested interest in it.
Yeah.
And so it took us several years. So we got our 900. And so once that happened, then they produced the plate. And so now you can just go down to the license plate office, wherever you get your license plate, and you can, sign on and say, hey, I want that.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a cost difference. The plates are $44. I think a regular one is $36. So not that big of a deal difference.
Yeah.
And so $10 from the sale of every plate goes to Cure KY Kids. And then we have used it to do different things in support of families and who are battling cancer.
Yeah. Well, in full disclosure, we shot the stuff with you all in UK baseball, but this time last year and then this past April as well.
Yeah,
so
we did.
Why was it important to partner specifically with baseball and use NIL and all those things?
So we had some donors that were interested in helping UK athletics and specifically the UK baseball team. And so we just thought that would be a good partnership, and they wanted to help bring light to childhood cancer. So we thought that would be something good that we could do. The donors could make the donation to our organization, and then we could use the players as part of their NIL contracts. They could do what we did, which is advertise about the license plate. I mean, you'll see them up on the billboards around town from the footage that we shot and the PSAs that were run. I mean, and then Kentucky baseball went on and had a fantastic year, the best year ever. And so that worked out great. And, it just helped raise awareness for childhood cancer, which was great.
And that seemed like it was a great partnership and a great use of NIL as well, because the guys seemed like they were genuinely, interested. They were very engaged, be there, anything that we asked them to do. We did some social media videos and things of that nature as well. So they were really patient. They wanted to be there.
And not only that, but they went to UK multiple times.
Oh, that's right. They went
to visit the kids in the hospital. So they were very invested.
They were very invested, and they had a blast spending, their afternoon when they had all these other things going on. They took time to go to the hospital and play with these kids. And so that was really a win-win for everybody involved.
Do you plan on doing the baseball association again?
We'll see.
Or what's that look like?
We'll see. Yeah. We've got a new year getting ready to start up. And so, I think it was a really good partnership last year. So we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's really, that's what I think is really special about the license plate is the statement that it makes, right? Like, not only when folks go and get the license plate, does it help fund the programs and services that we're able to offer to children with cancer and their families across the state, but it's also such a statement to say, this is on my car. I am standing with kids with cancer and their families. It proves to the families that they're not alone, that the community is behind them, that they've got support.
Yeah.
And I know the people that have them, everybody is so proud to have them. Yeah. And so it's just really special. It's more than a license plate.
It is.
It's really proving to the families that our community is supporting them.
And a lot of families, you can personalize them, which is another additional cost, but it's so neat to see them around town and they've got, someone's name, somebody that you want to either remember or somebody that you want to support. So it's really cool when they personalize it and add that little touch to it as well. And it's a fun license plate. When we met with the graphic designer, we were intentional about the design, and it's, got the outline of the state of Kentucky, and then of course the kids' hands with the hearts inside. And that's kind of, like we don't want them to know that they are not alone, and we want them to know that. And then the sunshine, which we want to brighten those kiddos' days, and we want them to have brighter days. So it's a happy plate because it's gold for childhood cancer, which is kind of the color of childhood cancer. So we kind of wrapped that all up into the design and just made it a fun, loving plate for these kiddos who need that support.
Yeah. And outside of the support through the license plate, what are other ways that people can be involved or financially support? I know there's a give button on the website. And
yes,
stuff
absolutely.
Like that.
So Kids Cancer Alliance, all of our programs are provided 100% free of charge. So we don't charge for any of our programs or services. We know the financial strain that childhood cancer puts on families. So we would never dream of charging them. So we are fully funded by private donations. So individuals who hear about us and want to support either through the license plates, going to our website and giving online. We have various giving days throughout the year. We have
One's going on
family
today, right?
We have one is, but it'll be after we
after
we record this.
But do you want to talk about what it is, just as an example of some ongoing things?
So while we're recording it, today is Give for Good Day. So it's a 24-hour day of giving. There are a few of those throughout the year, so we always look forward to those. They're always really fun and engaging for people.
Like a corporate partner, somebody is matching the donations.
Yes,
is
so
that right?
Limestone Title and Escrow is actually matching the first $5,000 in donations. So, it's really awesome. That's another thing. Corporate donations, companies that want to support the mission and get behind it. We have a lot of different ways they can do that through either sponsoring one of our events, sponsoring one of our programs, or just giving an outright donation, however they see fit. And then family foundations are another big funding source for us. And then just various fundraising events throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, I want to come back to the summer camp that goes on, because you said the child with cancer and a sibling, if they have one, can come along. I guess that brings the familiarity and that comfort of a sibling to be with them. Yeah. All fully funded. Can you talk about the program and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So for years, our program was only for kids with cancer. That was what we had funding for. But as, our organization grew, as we got to know the kids and families more, and as we were able to fundraise more to have the resources to provide it to more children, we recognize that cancer is a family disease. It's not an individual disease. So every person in the family is impacted tremendously. And there's actually a lot of studies that show that long term, the siblings of kids with cancer actually suffer more emotionally, behaviorally, educationally. So that was so interesting to us. And they have almost no resources available to them.
Is that like the kid with cancer gets more attention because of what they have and they feel neglected?
Yeah. And also if you think about it, if, so if there's a family and the child is in the hospital for months at a time, that sibling is probably being shuffled from different family members, friends, from place to place. They're spending long periods of time away from their parents and their sibling. They're worried about their sibling. They love them, but also there is, that feeling of, they're getting more attention than me. It's a lot of
their
things
name talked about a lot, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of things for kids to process and to deal with. And they, had almost no resources available to them. So that's where we really looked strategically at our programs and said, okay, how can we help the siblings? How can we help the parents? How can we help these families as a whole? And looked at it more holistically and tried to design new programs to meet those needs, and also kind of redesign some of our existing programs like our camps. So we developed, 1 week for kids with cancer and then a separate week for the siblings. So they had their own special place. And then that actually grew into 4 weeks. So they were broken up by ages as well. That was pre-pandemic. As we all know, the pandemic kind of changed a lot of things. It definitely changed some of our programming. So we now have, still have multiple camp weeks, but we now host the children with cancer and siblings together. And it seems to work for families because, we've had a family tell us recently, it's really nice for all the kids
to kind of and shuffling around.
Right. To be at
gives
camp.
the parents a little vacation too, right?
Exactly.
Which they need after years of what they've been going through. So
it gives them some respite and
a
chance to, have that alone time too.
And so that's obviously at a dedicated place, right? What's the name of the camp?
Yeah, so we partner with Camp Horse and Around, which is another nonprofit organization. So we partner with them to host our camps at their campsite, which is in Perryville, Kentucky. So kind of a nice, fairly central location for our families who are coming and traveling from all over the state of Kentucky to go to the summer camps.
So if a kid is in the middle of treatment or something like that, can they participate? How do they get treatment when they're, out of their normal location?
Yeah. So actually, that's, I think, what's really special about our camp program is that
Amazing.
we partner so closely with both Kentucky Children's Hospital and Norton Children's Hospital. And we actually work with the med staff. So they actually staff our camp with so we have a pediatric oncologist that's there. We have multiple nurses, pharmacists that are there the entire week so that they can care for the healthcare needs of the kids while they're at our camp. But a lot of times,
and they're volunteering.
They're volunteering their time.
Right.
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
is truly amazing.
Mhm.
You know, that they're taking time off of their work to be there.
And away from their families.
Away from their families.
But yeah, and a lot of times they'll actually plan their treatment around our camp because they know how important it is. They've seen the difference that it makes in the kids. And so they want to make sure that the kids are able to come. The only reason they wouldn't be able to would be, if they have a fever or something that has to be done that week. But we actually have kids that too will come to camp and then they'll leave midweek if they have to go and do something at the treatment facility, and then they come back.
I was going to ask, are you finding maybe, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but I'm curious, like, is it better to go to camp as a precursor to treatment? Because, treatment can, if it's chemo or something else, can drag down energy and like just wipe a kid out for a while. Or is it better to go to treatment, or not better, but people finding that it's better to do treatment and then use this as like a reward afterward? Does that make sense?
So luckily, most of the time, as soon as a child's diagnosed with cancer, treatment starts pretty immediately. Yeah. So it's really not a question of which one to do first.
Okay. Maybe that was a very
well,
silly question.
No, it's a good thing. And I think that happens more in adult cancers that there may be a delay in when you start treatment. But luckily for most childhood cancers, treatment starts pretty immediately. But that's one of the great things about having, one of several amazing reasons of having the med staff actually at our campsite, is that kids can come while they're on treatment. They can come and even post-treatment afterwards, as up until their 18th birthday or they graduate high school, they can come back to our camp even after, they're in remission and they've been survivors.
Which is really, really cool. And like Shelby mentioned, a lot of them have gone through and now come back as counselors. And I mean, what a testament to the organization that they want to come back and want to do that and want to give back. After they've walked in those shoes, they know what it's like. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So they can come back and be counselors, which is really cool.
Does it, Shelby, don't you have that story? Or you?
No, I'm not.
I thought you were there for a bit and then sort of got on board.
So I was a volunteer. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I started actually volunteering at Camp KCA when I was in college at UK. It was actually I helped start Dance Blue. So I was the first family relations chair of Dance Blue at UK, which is pretty incredible to look back on how much it's growing. 2005 is when we started the planning process, and that's the first year that I volunteered at camp. And I actually started volunteering. Jennifer Minear, who was the mother of Jarrett Minear, who was a truly inspirational kid who started Jarrett's Joy Cart, which his family is still keeping active. But Jennifer was really instrumental in helping bring Dance Blue to the University of Kentucky. And she, to this day, is one of my mentors. And when we were starting that process, she was like, you've got to go volunteer at camp. It'll be a great way to not only get to know the kids and families, but also form the relationships with the hospital staff to kind of, make sure that as the family relations chair, I was the liaison between the hospital and Dance Blue and the students. So building that relationship. So I went to camp the first time having no idea what to expect. And it was, to this day, the most incredible experience to not only meet these volunteers that come from all different backgrounds who take an entire week away from their lives and dedicate it to this camp, and they come back. We have some volunteers that have been there 35 years. Wow. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah. Not only that, but the kids are just, they were just incredible. I've always wanted to work with kids. I've always loved kids. But these kids are really special. Yeah. What they've been through, their outlook on life, they really teach you perspective. They could be fighting for their lives, or some of them even terminal. And just the joy that they got out of the most simple things. It was just inspiring. I was like, wow, it was really eye-opening. And I was like, this is special. This is what I'm meant to do. So that's how I first got involved. So yeah, I was a volunteer for 5 years, ended up after grad school working at the Pediatric Hematology Oncology Clinic at UK as social worker and child life specialist, which was a really incredible experience to work day in and day out, see them during their treatment. It really gave me an understanding of the full spectrum of needs that the kids and families have, which I think was really beneficial. When I came to Kids Cancer Alliance, they hired me as their first full-time employee. And to be able to use that knowledge and that experience when it came time to plan beyond camp, because at the time when they hired me, we just had our summer camp program, which was awesome. But they said, we know we can do more. We know we can serve these kids and families year round. So to be able to take what I learned from Dance Blue and working with the kids and families in the hospital and from my experience at camp to kind of bring that all together to help kind of guide that process and strategically plan our programs to meet the needs of the kids and families.
Well, and I was going to ask for both of you, what advice do you have for somebody that is starting a foundation or maybe has a foundation of some sort, but maybe they're feeling a little stuck in growth and not sure how to get to the next level of, donations and volunteer participation, things of that nature? How do you foster, continued growth?
Yeah. I mean, I think nonprofit, just the nonprofit world in general is pretty hard getting your organization started. But one thing that helped us was finding groups or other people who had a similar cause. Like we had a similar passion for childhood cancer. And so, I mean, a lot of people would think that you were competing, your competitors, but in the nonprofit realm, you're not really, competing. Like we all want to work together to make whatever your cause is better for whoever your beneficiaries are. And so I would definitely, if I were starting or redoing this, reach out to people who were in your area and, find a mentor, like Shelby mentioned, Jennifer Minear was also awesome. We met with her, talked with her, and people that just have traveled that road. I mean, don't reinvent the wheel, would be my advice.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. You got to find the champions for the cause that are out there in the community. There are so many people in Kentucky who care very passionately about certain causes. So just finding those people who truly care to champion your, whatever your mission is. I think that's why Kids Cancer Alliance has been successful, because we have so many people throughout the state who truly care about kids with cancer, who are advocates, who, are willing to go out and speak about why it's important to support them. And Kids Cancer Alliance has partnered with all the other organizations, Joy said, it's not about competition. It's about advancing the mission, pushing it forward. And it's hard. The nonprofit world really is tough. It's a lot of people who care very passionately about a cause, but also nonprofits operate very much like a business on the back end, but it's instead of for the bottom line, you're working for a mission. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but you do have to possess all of those same business skill sets. So it's kind of interesting.
How do you craft a compelling elevator pitch to somebody, to be a donor or participate or something?
Yeah, I think just being very clear about what you do and what you're trying to get across is important. And I think the authenticity, people, know when somebody is being authentic and when they're not. I think you can feel that. And another reason why, I think our partnership has worked so well together, and why Kids Cancer Alliance has been successful because we have so many people that it's very obvious that they care about what we're doing and are in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I think too, one thing that we do a good job of is showing the donors, this is what your money is going for. I mean, in any event that we do, that's a big part of it is if you donate this is what you're doing. You know, you're sending a child to camp for a week, or you're providing a meal in the hospital. And I think people like to know when they're giving money, what am I doing? Like, how am I making a difference? I think that's important.
And for volunteers, is there a minimum participation of hours or events or any of those kind of things?
Yeah, no, we, our volunteers, we were started by volunteers and we were fully ran by volunteers for 29 years. So we still rely very heavily on them. And our volunteers are incredibly passionate and dedicated to our cause, but there's not necessarily a minimum unless they want to come and volunteer at camp. That is a full week-long commitment. However, we do have some one-day volunteer opportunities within Camp Week. But outside of that, we have a variety of volunteer opportunities throughout the year. We have a lot of committees that are fully staffed by volunteers. Joy is one of our board members. That's a volunteer position. So there are many different ways to volunteers on all different levels, and varies on the time commitment as well.
So if somebody wants to volunteer, how can they learn to do that? Remind us again where we can go to donate if we want to participate in that way.
Yeah,
the best. Just get in touch with you in general.
Yeah, the best way is to go to our website, kidscanceralliance.org, or visit our social media pages. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and on YouTube.
Got it. And if you want to get a license plate, go down to the county clerk's
plate?
office and
where you
do your
get
thing.
Your license plate. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not my time to renew. It doesn't matter. Head down there, especially right now. It's, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. It would be awesome if we could just make a big, big statement in Kentucky in the month of September and have people showing up down there and trade in there. It's easy. You just take the license plate that you have on your car, take it down there and tell them you want a Childhood Cancer Awareness plate.
Yeah.
So easy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all your time. We're going to get this out as soon as possible so that it comes out, during this month. Yeah. And, let's do this again sometime and talk about all the new events and things that are going on, see how things are progressing. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Lexington Business Show. Go right now, rate and review the podcast. It's how we grow and thrive and how we get more listeners and get to do a lot more cool stuff here on the show. Thank you.